Hello, Katie. How are
Hi,
you?
how are you? Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, wonderful.
You're one of my favorite people, and I'm just so
You're
grateful
one of
for you
my
to
favorite people,
share.
Nikki.
I'm just so grateful for you to share your time and your expertise. For me, everything that you do and baby-led weaning is so foreign. I think it's my unhealthy fear of choking, and I know when I hear it and I read your stuff, it's like I know that it's so mental for me to get past that. And Cece, obviously my good friend and sister-in-law, right? She did it, and to
Yeah.
see it is one of the most amazing things. So I'm so excited to hear what you have to share today. And I won't take any more of your time or on your
All
screen here,
right.
but
Well,
I'll
thank
let you
you.
take
I'm
it.
gonna go
If you
ahead and
hit
switch over
share, I should
here.
approve it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Thank you
righty.
again.
So, sure, no problem. Okay, can you see the screen there, Nikki?
Yes, we see it. So it's up
All
there.
right,
You might not be
cool.
able to, and you're on screen too, just FYI.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so
Okay.
much. And just remind me again when you want me to wrap up by, so I'll be concise here.
You got 12 to 15 minutes. You're good.
12 to 15 minutes. Perfect. All right. I'm going to walk you guys through the first 5 days of baby-led weaning. My name is Katie Ferraro. I'm a registered dietitian. I'm a mom of 7, and I specialize in baby-led weaning, which I'll teach you guys about today. You had a fabulous presentation there about breastfeeding. It's kind of a natural progression when you get to the 6-month mark. If you want to continue on with that responsive feeding technique that you'll all be employing or are with breastfeeding, baby-led weaning is a great alternate to traditional spoon feeding. So I run the largest digital community dedicated solely to baby-led weaning. I'm actually here in San Diego. I'll share a little bit about my home life just to start real quick. This is my oldest daughter at 4 months of age, Molly. I didn't know what I was doing. And around 4 months, our doctor said, why don't you start solid food? So I did. And Molly absolutely hated being spoon-fed. She rejected all of our efforts to try to get her to eat. This is actually my husband's hand trying to spoon feed her because I was like, I'm done with this. Like, she hated being fed. She hated food. I felt like she hated me. And I felt like this abject failure because what kind of mom can't feed her own baby? And then what kind of dietitian mom at that? So fast forward, we're at the height of our feeding frustrations with Molly. She's not eating anything. Meal times turned into this downright battleground. And we found out we were pregnant with quadruplets. Now, we had been doing fertility treatments, so the likelihood of multiples was there, but I was certainly not expecting quadruplets. And I remember thinking the first time I saw the ultrasound with the 4 babies, like, literally the first thing that went through my head was, how am I going to feed 4 babies at once when I can't even feed the 1 baby that I have at home? So the quads were born at 34 weeks, which is kind of a miracle if you know anything about high order multiple births. The average gestation for quads is 28 weeks with a 50% chance of major handicap. So I spent the entirety of my quadruplet pregnancy just completely mortified that we were going to have at least 2, if not more, severely handicapped children. And as a miracle, and thanks to the miracle of modern medicine, I ended up being able to go 34 weeks. And there's the first time I was holding all 4 of them: Charlie, Claire, Henry, and Dylan. We had 3 boys and a little girl. They spent the first few weeks of their lives in the NICU, growing and getting stronger. And you can see that they're all hooked up to tubes there. They were tube fed for a while. I was pumping like crazy. I never even attempted breastfeeding. I just pumped like crazy. They were all bottle fed. And they progressed and they did well. And I spent most of my time in the NICU stressing, though, about my older child at home. And I was like, when these 4 babies start solid foods, we need a different alternative than traditional spoon feeding because it was not working for us. So I did some research and learned more about baby-led weaning. I'm also a college nutrition professor. I teach locally here at San Diego State University in the Exercise and Nutrition Science Department. I teach at UCSD Extension and the University of San Diego. So I kind of leaned on a lot of my academic colleagues to learn about baby-led weaning. So when the quads turned 6 months at their adjusted age, we started solid foods with a totally different foray into foods than traditional spoon feeding. And with baby-led weaning, babies learn to eat age-appropriate foods that the family prepares for them, and you totally can bypass the traditional spoon feeding. And so I'll explain a little bit about that, but this is just starting solids with the quads. It was such a fabulous and life-affirming, life-changing experience for our family that actually shifted the entire focus of my nutrition career. And now I've been focusing exclusively on baby-led weaning for the last 5 years. So we went on to have one more set of multiples after the quads. We have a set of twins, Gus and Hannah. We had 7 kids, 3 and under, for a while there. So it was just absolute mayhem. But I have to say that as crazy and psychotic as our home life was, not having to worry about picky eating, not having to stress about, oh my gosh, are they getting enough of the purees? Knowing that we were helping our 7 kids establish a healthful relationship with food was really, really, I think it alleviated a lot of stress. So in 2016, I created the 100 First Foods approach to baby-led weaning. So now I teach parents how to get their babies to eat 100 foods before they turn 1. It's kind of turned into this global phenomenon. We've helped tens of thousands of families get a safe start to solid foods, all with this 100 First Foods approach. So I'm going to share the first 5 days with you guys today, a little bit about the program. If your baby is approaching 6 months of age, and this is something that you're interested in doing, I'll tell you at the end a little bit about how you can learn more. But babies can eat so many more foods than we give them credit for, right? Oftentimes we think, oh, with traditional spoon feeding, babies have only had 10 or 12 foods by the time they turn 1. But with this approach in baby-led weaning, babies can have an infinite number of foods. And the reason why this is important is because those of you with older children likely know that starting in the 2nd year of life, all children will experience some degree of picky eating or food neophobia. And if a baby only has 10 or 15 foods and you lose those foods to picky eating, that becomes a very challenging child to feed. That's when you're at the pediatrician and asking for a referral to feeding therapy. And this cycle of stress with food begins and perpetuates itself. But if a baby has 100 foods under their belt by the time they turn 1 and you lose 10 or 15 foods to picky eating, no big deal. So I have kind of started this international phenomenon of the 100 First Foods approach. I speak around the world about baby-led weaning. I do a ton of social media, traditional media. I have a top-rated parenting podcast about baby-led weaning called Baby-Led Weaning Made Easy. Lots of resources for you guys to learn about how to get your baby to eat 100 foods before turning 1. So just as a real high-level overview, you see the picture of Molly there. That's parent-led spoon feeding. Whenever you see those long spoons and rice cereal and the parent shoving it in their mouth, okay, the baby we call that the traditional or parent-led spoon feeding model. It starts and generally stays with purees. And purees are an important texture for your baby to master. They're just not the only texture that your baby can eat. And the problem with traditional spoon feeding is that it ignores baby's autonomy. You learn all about breastfeeding and how a baby naturally knows when they're full and they turn their head away from the breast or the bottle. Why do we take that autonomy away from the baby at 6 months and pick arbitrary amounts of food to shove and force feed into their mouth? Okay. The problem with baby-led weaning is it tends to start too early before the baby is ready. Babies are not ready or safe to eat anything except breast milk or formula until they turn 6 months of age. So me starting at 4 months of age explains exactly why Molly hated it, because she was too early to be doing anything except breast milk or formula. Nutritionally, she didn't need it, and she wasn't physiologically ready to swallow foods yet. With the parent-led approach, or with the baby-led approach rather, which is BLW, babies have purees as well as other textures starting in the first week of solid foods. This approach supports their autonomy. We wait until they're 6 months of age. And then, as I mentioned, there's like an infinite number of foods. We focus on 100 foods, though, that the baby can eat before turning 1. Okay, so we end up with children who thankfully are starting to establish a healthful relationship with food. And that's one of the things I love about baby-led weaning, is because as a mom of 7 or a mom of anything or a caregiver or grandparent of other children, this is a lot of work, the food stuff, right? And I always remind parents of 6-month-olds, you've got to feed this kid for the next 17 and a half years of their life. Okay, so you might as well do the work now to help your baby establish a safe or healthy relationship with food. The key here with baby-led weaning, and I would implore you, no matter what approach you decide to take with starting solid foods, please do not offer anything except breast milk or formula until the baby is 6 months of age. The American Academy of Pediatrics reminds us that breast milk or formula is sufficient to meet babies' needs up until 6 months of age. The World Health Organization says the same, and that we start the weaning process from 6 months on. So when we do that, when you're ready to start solid foods in the first week of baby-led weaning, in my approach, we start 5 foods per week. So I'll show you a little bit about the math, but we do a fruit on day 1, we do a vegetable on day 2, a starch on day 3, a protein on day 4, and then a challenge food, which includes the allergenic foods. Because there's good research to show us that babies who are introduced to allergenic foods early and often, it helps prevent allergies down the road. And I know some of you might be thinking, well, my doctor says I need to wait 3 to 5 days between new foods to observe for any potential reaction. And I want you guys to know that that is categorically untrue. true. There's absolutely no reason, there is no research to support this recommendation that unfortunately a lot of parents are still hearing. We don't need to wait 3 to 5 days between foods. If a baby is going to have an allergic reaction to food, it will occur within minutes and up to no more than 2 hours following the ingestion of the food. So it's not like you let your baby eat a strawberry and then 5 days later the diaper's different. You're like, oh my gosh, the baby's allergic to strawberries. That's not how it works. So I like to start with, I have a patented approach to starting solids called the purees for a few days approach. And we do this for parents who are scared or anxious about doing solid strips of food. Because with baby-led weaning, we offer the baby soft, solid strips of food about the size of your adult pinky finger. You can do that on day 1 if you want, but if you feel more comfortable pureeing, first we do a thin puree, which you see in the top left there. This happens to be avocado, which is a wonderful first food for baby-led weaning. There's a chunkier puree there, and then the traditional baby-led weaning strips of soft avocado. You can offer your baby purees and honor the self-feeding principles of baby-led weaning. We teach what's called a preloaded spoon approach, so that we're preloading the spoon with the puree, putting it in the baby's hand. Initially, you have to help guide the hand to mouth, but babies, usually by day 2, get the hang of it, pick it up, and can put it in their mouth. Okay, but you can totally skip the purees if you'd like to. Second day, we do a fruit, okay, or a vegetable. There's an example of bananas. Sweet potato, we want to be offering starchy foods. We don't need to do iron-fortified rice cereal. We do naturally occurring sources of iron. So on day 4, I always do a meat. I like to do lamb. Actually, I was just working with a brand new 6.5-month-old baby yesterday. Day 4, we did lamb, soft, solid strips of shredded roast leg of lamb. We serve it with a lot of low sodium juice or broth. Moisture is important when we're feeding babies. You can puree it if you want to, but the babies love, they use that whole hand grasp, right? They don't get their pincer grasp until they're about 8 or 9 months of age. So using that whole hand grasp, they can pick the food up and bring it to their mouth. And then I like to do the first allergenic food on day 5. Yogurt, if your baby's exclusively breastfed, they've never had cow's milk protein, but it's very safe to eat cow's milk protein foods. So we can offer whole milk, which is full fat, no sugar added yogurt. And I know some of you might be thinking, well, gosh, do you only do 1 food a day? I'm going to show you, this is a video of Nikki and I have a mutual, my sister-in-law and her friend, Cece. This is her daughter, Jojo, at 6 months. This is her second day of solid foods, picking up those solid strips of sweet potato and feeding herself. Usually on day 3 is when we start a traditional plate. So let's say it's sweet potato, which is day 3. I'll give the baby about 10 minutes to try the sweet potato as the new food of the day. And in the second 10 minutes of that feed, I'll swap in a more traditional meal, like a plate you see here that is 2 familiar foods from the previous days. So avocado and banana from day 1. And then we're reintroducing the sweet potato there. That's on day 3. She's starting to see the familiar foods from previous days. And then we're moving forward with a new food each day. Okay, I generally don't do new foods on the weekend. The next week, pick right up, offering another fruit, then a vegetable, then a starchy food, then another protein food. Pork is a great one. We love to make pork shoulder nice and soft, and we make these lovely strips of shreddable meat that babies can safely self-feed. And then we do a second allergenic food. I like to start with milk and peanut, followed by egg. Those are the most common pediatric allergens. But within the first 9 weeks of solids, we want you to introduce all of the allergenic foods to your babies. So I help parents develop menus so that they can go through helping knock off these foods from the 100 First Foods list, making sure they're getting the allergenic foods, trying all sorts of textures, getting iron from the meat foods. And at the end of 5 months, if you do 5 foods a week, that's 20 foods a month. In 5 months, your baby has eaten 100 different foods. And we usually have a big party and celebrate with the parents because it's such an accomplishment. A lot of parents will take a little certificate and put it in their baby's baby book. If you guys want to learn more about how your baby can eat 100 foods before turning 1, I teach a free online workshop each week. It's called Baby-Led Weaning for Beginners. All about how to get your baby to eat 100 foods before turning 1 without you having to spoon feed purees or buy pouches. You can sign up for this week's workshop times at babyledweaning.co. Got a lot of great information on my Instagram page. That's at babyledweanteam. I link to my podcast there if you're more of a, auditory listener. And for those of you who might have already started Solid Foods, if you're interested in learning more about how to make meat safe for baby-led weaning, next week I'm teaching a free 5-day mini crash course called BLW Meat Week. It's all about how to make 5 different meats safe for baby-led weaning. So it's a daily video training that I teach you about each meat, followed by a baby-led weaning recipe of the day. All over the world, parents are making these same 5 recipes. Next week, we're doing beef on Monday, fish on Tuesday, pork on Wednesday, lamb on Thursday, and we're going to finish with turkey on Friday. So your babies will be ready for Thanksgiving with the family. That's blwmeatweek.com if you want to get signed up for free and to learn more.
I am dropping all of these links over here in the comments as well. Oh my goodness. I wish we had met when my daughter was younger. Woo, there we go. That is so amazing. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for hosting this and for focusing on baby-led weaning. And if you guys want to learn more, I'm always available on that free workshop. I do a big Q&A at the end to answer any questions you might have about baby-led weaning.
Yay. And like I said, my hair's a little crazy. We will be doing, we're going to repost this and we'll be kind of like transcribing a little bit of what you had to say and sharing information. Sure. So if you're happy to share the slides that you had in here, we can share bits and pieces of it as well.
Absolutely. Really always happy to share. And I'll share the links to Instagram's probably the best place to get all of the free training if you want to learn more. And we're going to break up all of these clips as well and be sharing them on Instagram as well. So I'm super excited. So thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Bye. Oops, I cut her off. Oh my gosh, my hair is so crazy. Anyways, thank you, Katie. Gosh, so amazing. Sleep. Is that such a foreign?